touching moment revealed how a single dad inspired a paralyzed girl's incredible transformation. Jake stood by the window, the last rays of sunlight trickling through the dusty blinds, illuminating the walls adorned with Emma's vibrant, swirling paintings captured moments of her innermost dreams. Yet, as the evening descended, shadows crept into his heart. After the accident, the world outside twisted into an obstacle course of doubts and fears. Emma, his bright-eyed girl, had become a mosaic of creativity shaped by tragedy, but he wasn't sure he could hold the jagged pieces together. Alone in their small, worn-down house, performances as hard as the void that filled their lives loomed before him. Would he ever live up to the promises he made? His heart tightened at the thought of her marble-like gaze of disappointment, every small interaction at school a reminder that they were different. Teachers forgot that Emma's spirit still danced despite her confinement. Each negative remark gripped him more tightly, squeezing away his strength, igniting an urgent desire to shield his daughter from a world too small to recognize her brilliance. As the clock ticked, the weight of 2 jobs pressed down on his shoulders. Sleep was a luxury he couldn't afford when the bills crept closer. Should he spend time on the road or organize an art show? The clock was unforgiving, each tick a reminder that he couldn't do both. The pressure mounted, crushing him with the thought that he might be failing her. Keeping their cherished home felt like an impossible task when all he wanted was to give Emma every opportunity to thrive. Before he could spiral deeper, Jake caught the glimmer of hope in Mrs. Anderson, the elderly former teacher who had stepped into Emma's life like a breath of fresh air. She saw not the wheelchair but the artist, pouring everything into her craft. Could it be enough? With time ticking away, a plan began to form, an art show that could challenge the narrow-minded views threading through their community. But the anxiety knotted in his gut how to confront the school board and the prejudice that marred Emma's view. Just then, a fleeting thought interrupted his spiraling mind. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Emerging from the haze of uncertainty, he realized this art show could be the turning point. The vision of Emma's creations displayed under bright lights filled him with a flicker of hope. But moments later, frantic thoughts clawed at him. What if their small-town biases would crush Emma yet again? What if he let her down in front of everyone watching? The air grew thick with tension. It was a hurdle too high for Jake to jump. With every passing moment, dread and determination intertwined, urging him to action while anchoring him in place. How could he defend his daughter and inspire his community at the same time? Then, just when he thought he was finding his way, a letter arrived addressed to Emma, hinting at a decision that could either elevate her art or forever diminish her light. Jake's heart raced. The weight of the moment suffocated him, leaving anticipation lingering in the air, thick as the darkness outside. Would this be a breakthrough or the beginning of another struggle? Jake's fingers trembled as he picked up the envelope, its edge sharp against his skin. The return address was scribbled in an unfamiliar hand. He turned it over, his heart pounding, mind racing with possibilities: acceptance for a scholarship, an invitation to showcase Emma's art at a prestigious gallery, or perhaps the rejection he dreaded. With deliberate care, he sliced open the envelope, his breath hitching as he pulled out the neatly folded letter. Each word seemed to loom larger than life, demanding attention. As he began to read, his mind reeled at the implications. Emma had been nominated for a local art competition, a platform that could potentially launch her work beyond the confines of their town. But the stakes were high. Competing meant facing the scrutiny of community members who had, all too often, dismissed her talent based on their narrow perceptions. Could he really thrust her into the spotlight? The conflicting emotions surged through him. On one hand, this was a golden opportunity, on the other, a potential disaster. How could he risk exposing Emma to more heartache? The very thought made him clutch the letter tighter, his knuckles whitening. What if she didn't win? It would only reinforce the ugly beliefs that threatened to squash her spirit. His instinct to protect warred against the urge to push her toward the possibility of greatness. That he glanced back at the wall full of Emma's colorful paintings, each a testament to her resilience and creativity. Wasn't she deserving of a chance at recognition? Their safe haven illuminated through her art felt like a beacon of hope. It sparked a determination he hardly recognized. Maybe this was not just about the competition, it was about dismantling the barriers that had always loomed over them. Emma could shine if only he could summon the courage to stand by her side. As he wrestled with these thoughts, the memory of Mrs. Anderson surfaced. She had encouraged them to face their fears, convinced that Emma's art could inspire others. "It's not the wheelchair that holds her back, Jake," she had said in her gentle voice. "It's the world's perception of it." In that moment, a realization crystallized within him. If they were ever to break free from shackles of judgment and narrow-mindedness, he'd have to confront the very institution that had once made Emma feel small. With renewed conviction, Jake made a decision that shifted the atmosphere around him. He began drafting a plan. He would approach the school board, presenting the art competition not just as an opportunity for Emma, but as a chance for the entire community to reevaluate their beliefs. It wouldn't just be about showcasing her talent, it would be about inviting dialogue, understanding, and ultimately change. The urgency of time being on his side ignited a fire beneath him. Fueled by both fear and resolve, he hit the keyboard, each keystroke transporting the deeply buried aspirations he had for Emma into the light. Would they respond to his plea? How would they perceive his boldness? As he sent off the email, he felt an unfamiliar mix of excitement and dread wash over him. For the first time, he was not just an observer of Emma's captivity to her circumstances, he was actively fighting for her freedom, and somehow, that felt powerful. Yet, the uncertainty of the school board's reaction loomed darkly over him. What if this bold move only brought more ridicule upon Emma? Just as he settled into this new wave of anxiety, a notification pinged on his phone, lighting up the screen. It was a message from Mrs. Anderson, one that hinted at support, but more importantly, suggested something more concerning. Rumors were swirling about the competition that could change everything. His heart raced again. What did it mean? This new revelation stirred both hope and unease, prompting Jake to take a deep breath and prepare for what lay ahead. It was clear that the path would not be easy, but he couldn't turn back now. The moment of truth was approaching, and with it lay the chance to reshape their world. What would happen next could redefine everything they had fought for. Jake leaned back in his chair, his gaze fixed on the flickering screen of his laptop. The email had felt like the plunge into cold water, refreshing yet jarring. Excitement surged, quickly followed by dread. He scanned the message again. There it was, Mrs. Anderson's careful encouragement, but also an ominous note regarding the rumors that had begun to circulate about the competition. An anxiety knot tightened in his stomach. He needed to know what those rumors were. He glanced at the clock. Time was slipping away. If he wanted to prepare Emma for what lay ahead, he would have to act fast. He stood abruptly, his decision made. He would visit Mrs. Anderson in person. In the small town, connecting with people often led to uncovering hidden truths. He needed her insight into this brewing storm. As he walked the familiar route to her office, Jake's mind raced. What if the rumors were damaging? Would they cast Emma in a negative light before her talent had the chance to shine? Each step felt heavier, the weight of the uncertainty pressing on his shoulders. But a cautionary voice within him urged, remember the potential for change. With every stride, he reminded himself that this was not merely about Emma's entry into the competition, it was about shifting perceptions, breaking down walls around her art to reveal the brilliance locked behind them. The door swung open with a soft creak, and as Mrs. Anderson looked up from her desk, her expression brightened. Jake! I'm so glad you came, she said, gesturing for him to take a seat. Thank you for responding to my email. I need to talk about Emma and the competition, Jake said, slightly breathless. Of course. I know there are some whispers going around, particularly about the judges and their biases. It's disheartening but not surprising given how parameters can shape public opinion, she replied, her tone serious. Biases? Jake leaned forward, urgency in his voice. What are they saying? Well, some believe that her wheelchair will automatically discredit her art, as if being unable-bodied somehow diminishes the experience of creativity, she explained, shaking her head. Frustration bubbled within Jake. That's absurd. Her art speaks volumes. Are they judging her before she even displays her work? Unfortunately, yes, she nodded, sympathy woven into her expression. But this presents an opportunity for you and Emma to challenge those views directly. If you address these concerns up front, confronting them can spark discussion. The truth of her words resonated deep in Jake's core. They had to brave the unpredictable waters of community opinion. He could feel a sense of purpose emerging, a thrilling sensation of empowerment. Maybe we can prepare a statement or even a presentation to accompany her submission. Something that highlights both her experiences and the strength behind her creativity, he suggested, excitement creeping back in. Exactly. If you frame it as more than just a competition entry and as an invitation to reflect on biases, it could shift perceptions. Mrs. Anderson smiled, her confidence infectious. They discussed strategies, brainstorming how best to illustrate Emma's art alongside narratives of perseverance. With each passing moment, Jake felt a deeper certainty crystallize within him. He wasn't merely listing ideas, he was articulating a blueprint to defend Emma against shearing judgments. The cumulative experience of confronting society's stigmas drew out a side of him that had long remained silent. The advocate, driven by that spark of determination, they finalized a plan. As they wrapped up, Mrs. Anderson placed a reassuring hand on Jake's shoulder. Remember, Jake, it's not about changing everyone's mind all at once. It's about planting seeds of understanding that can grow over time. As Jake left her office, exhilaration mixed with the earlier anxiety. Could they truly instigate such change? What if the very effort they were putting forth risked backlash? Yet, despite the fear, he found solace in the belief that the fight for Emma was the fight for all those constrained by misunderstanding. Just as he stepped outside into the light, another notification pinged on his phone. He glanced at the message and froze. It was from Emma, asking an innocent yet crushing question, one that could shake the foundation of all that they had planned. A simple inquiry that held the power to unravel everything they had worked for. What would happen next could either solidify their resolve or test it to the breaking point. Jake's heart raced as he reread Emma's message, a mixture of uncertainty and raw vulnerability stitched into her words. It was a simple query about why they hadn't spoken about her artwork since the email he had sent. She wanted to know if he thought she could really compete. The question wasn't just innocent, it was a reflection of her own doubts, an echo of the whispers surrounding her abilities. He stood frozen on the street, the world around him blurring into insignificance. The weight of her inquiry crashed upon him, stirring both his protective instincts and his frustrations. How could she question herself when her talent shone so brightly? Yet part of him understood the world they lived in had an uncanny way of stifling confidence, especially for someone like Emma. He took a deep breath, tapping out a response that walked the tightrope between reassurance and motivation. Each word mattered, they were a lifeline. As he typed, he reminded himself that he needed to tackle both Emma's insecurities and the looming prejudices together. They were intertwined like roots of a stubborn weed. After hitting send, Jake turned toward the coffee shop down the street. He needed to think, to craft a strategy that would resonate with Emma and empower her against the specters of bias. The aroma of brewing coffee filled the air, grounding his furious thoughts. Inside, he sat at a corner table, the mug warming his fingers but the gravity of his situation chilling his spine. Would this be enough? He could build the most compelling narrative, but it was only as powerful as the belief driving it. Jake's mind wandered to Mrs. Anderson's emphasis on planting seeds of understanding. He realized that this challenge was twofold. They needed to prepare Emma to present her work confidently, but they also had to work on her belief in herself. Realizing the need for tangible steps, he made a list of the art pieces Emma had created. Each one contained a story waiting to be told. Each brushstroke carried emotion and strength. He scratched through ideas about how Emma could reinterpret her work, embedding her life experiences into the presentations in ways that would eliminate doubt before it even sprouted. With his phone buzzing intermittently, he saw sporadic messages from friends who had caught wind of the rumors and were offering support an unexpected lifeline. A particular line in one of the messages struck him: "Change the dialogue, don't let it define you." Jake's resolve solidified. They would not be passive participants waiting to fend off criticism, they would be vocal advocates for Emma's art and existence. With each passing moment, the plan took clearer shape. This was not merely a fight for a place in a competition, it was a crusade for visibility, acknowledgement, and respect. Through the afternoon, he envisioned the presentation, rehearsed words of empowerment, and sparkling narratives that celebrated Emma's experiences. He could see her sitting in front of an audience, vibrant and eager to share her vision, dispelling the stigma that had momentarily shadowed her. His phone dinged again. Emma had replied. "So, are we ready? Can we talk?" Her words were a blend of eagerness and fear, the push and pull of a teen standing at the precipice of self-discovery. Jake's heart thudded heavily in his chest. Could they push past the doubts and fears, through the criticism that had only begun to loom over them? He felt the weight of responsibility surge within him, reminiscent of the nurturing instincts he had fortified over the years as a protective father. He texted back a simple affirmation, suggesting a meeting at their favorite park, a place that held warmth and laughter, a backdrop of memories they had built together. The idea of discussing her work there felt right. He could frame every challenge as a step toward resilience and affirmation. As shadows grew longer and darkness slowly crept in, Jake's pulse quickened. Emma was undeniably stepping into the spotlight, and he would be there, steadfast beside her. But this journey carried its own uncertainty. Would she embrace her narrative or shatter beneath the weight of preconceptions? The questions loomed like dark clouds above them, thickening the atmosphere as he prepared to meet her. With every tick of the clock, the anticipation swelled. There was no turning back now, and Jake felt it in his bones. This was not just about art, but the reclamation of identity against the murmur of discontent. As he left the cafe and headed toward the park, he sensed a shift in the air, a tangible energy buzzing with potential. They were on the brink of something greater than he had imagined, a pivotal point that could redefine their path together. Would they confront the biases, or would the darkness of doubt swallow them whole? The moment was upon them, and one thing was certain: change was coming, and it wouldn't be easy. The park was tranquil, the familiar sounds of rustling leaves and distant laughter echoing in the air. Jake felt a sense of calm wash over him, but beneath that calm was the flutter of anxiety tightening in his stomach. He arrived early, hoping to center himself before their conversation. He watched the sunlight filter through the branches overhead, casting playful shadows on the grass. This space had seen their countless shared moments, and now, it would witness the most pivotal discussion. As he leaned against a sturdy oak, the cacophony of birdsong felt like a backdrop of encouragement. With every chirp, he tried to silence his own fears, reminding himself of the strategy they had crafted. They were moving purposefully, pushing against the current of doubt swirling around Emma. A distant figure caught his eye. Emma approached, her head held high yet with a hesitance in her step, a contradiction he recognized immediately. He opened his arms, an invitation to bridge the gap that both of them had felt widening in recent weeks. "Hey," he greeted her softly, a smile breaking across his face. She returned the gesture, though it flickered like a candle, a hopeful flame fighting against the wind. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, her voice wavering slightly. "Always," Jake assured her, his tone steady, casting off the worries that threatened to invade his mind. "This is important. Are you ready?" Emma glanced at the patch of grass between them, the fractal shadows playing tricks as she considered his question. "I've been thinking a lot about everything." Her eyes met his, filled with gravity. "What if it's not enough? What if when I show them, they still see me as just a kid?" He took a breath, fighting against his instinct to soothe her with simple reassurances. Instead, he leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "What if we shift the narrative? What if they see you as a creator, an artist bringing life to emotions they can't put into words. We can make it happen together. Your story is part of your art. Emma's expression shifted, the initial uncertainty morphing into something deeper, something he recognized as curiosity interlaced with determination. But they compare me to the others. What if I don't measure up? Jake felt the weight of her fears, understanding exactly how they were rooted in more than mere comparisons. They ran heavier, they were entangled with her experiences, the bias against anyone who didn't fit the mold. Let us walk through it, mentally. How can we present your pieces in ways that highlight your unique voice? Every single one of those pieces has a heartbeat, Emma. It's more than just measurement, it's about connection. A spark flickered in Emma's eye, and Jake sensed a shift. The conversation was moving from trepidation to an explosive potential. He saw the cogs beginning to turn in her mind. I could talk about the themes in my work, she mused aloud, emboldened by the suggestion. The struggles, the triumphs, everything. Jake grinned. Exactly. Highlight your identity, the journey that brought each piece to life. They can't measure heart. They delved deeper, brainstorming ways to craft Emma's narrative. It felt raw, almost cathartic. In this moment, Jake wasn't just a supporter, he was a mentor, a visionary for his daughter's potential. But an unsettling thought gnawed at him: the process of revealing would only amplify the stakes. Remember, he said, his voice serious, the art world isn't solely inclusive. You may face those who don't understand and those who will judge, because it's easier to tear down than to build up. Emma nodded, seriousness lining her youthful features. The challenge was monumental, but he saw her embrace it with each passing moment. I want to prove them wrong, she declared, an edge of fierce determination creeping into her tone. This was it. They weren't discussing just artworks anymore, but the essence of identity, passion, and the strength that emerged from overcoming adversity. Jake felt a surge of pride, mixed with apprehension. Embracing her art was one thing, but facing society beyond that was another realm altogether. Their gazes locked, the unspoken bond igniting between them. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting orange and purple hues across the horizon, Jake felt a clarity emerge. Emma was ready. They would navigate the space between creativity and criticism together, but just as he opened his mouth to voice encouragement, the weight of a lingering truth crept in, a realization that there were no guarantees in artistic expression, no assurances against rejection or misunderstanding. And that was when he received a notification on his phone, breaking the moment. It was a message from one of Emma's former peers, casually instigating doubt. The words dripped with condescension, igniting the fire of insecurities Jake had hoped to extinguish. His heart raced. Emma had made incredible progress today, but would this message threaten to tear apart the momentum they had built? The thrill of transformation was palpable, yet the shadows were far from gone. As Jake looked at Emma, ready to share the news, he felt a deepening fissure of uncertainty. Would this prove to be just another hurdle they would have to navigate together, or an insurmountable wall? And just as the sun set, enveloping them in profound darkness, one question echoed in Jake's mind: could they truly rise above the looming judgments, or would they find themselves confronting the darkness yet again? Jake's heart pounded in his chest as he stared at the cold screen of his phone, the weight of the notification pulling him further into uncertainty. While Emma had taken steps forward today, that message felt like a sudden gust threatening to extinguish the flickering flame of hope they had ignited. He inhaled deeply, forcing himself to push through the turmoil swarming in his mind as he focused on Emma's face, still radiant with the promise of discovery. Listen, Emma, he began, his voice steady, even as his internal conflict surged. I got a message just now. Her brow furrowed slightly at the interruption, and he could sense her tension rising with each word he hesitated to share. This wasn't the moment for distractions and doubts, it was a moment for strength. It's from someone you used to know, he continued, sidestepping the details of the comment that had struck him. But that doesn't matter right now. What matters is what you're about to do. You've built a story, one that's yours, and nobody can take that away. Emma studied him, her expression laced with a mix of apprehension and anticipation. After a silence that felt heavy with the unspoken, she asked, "What did they say?" Jake could feel the pulse of fear and uncertainty radiating from her. He shifted his position, both literally, leaning in towards Emma, and metaphorically, aiming to provide the kind of reassurance she needed. "It's not worth your energy," he finally said, willing to pivot the conversation. "Focus on the art, focus on the truth you're creating versus what others think." Emma appeared contemplative, her fingers automatically playing with a few strands of her hair, a nervous habit he recognized all too well. "But Dad, it's hard not to think about what they say," she murmured, almost to herself. "That's exactly why we need to prepare you," Jake replied earnestly. "Every moment you're creating, you're also giving a piece of yourself to the world. You have to own it." Through the crackling atmosphere, he acknowledged his own fears, the gnawing anxiety that accompanied a parent watching their child step into the harsh light of external scrutiny. The odds felt stacked against them, yet here they were, preparing for battle together. As their conversation unfolded, Jake suggested they draft a script, a foundation that Emma could build upon for her presentation. They took turns exploring her emotions intertwined with her artwork, and slowly, the passion she had for her creations began to seep into her voice. "But what if I fumble? What if I forget my lines?" Emma's words danced on the edge of vulnerability. "Every artist stumbles," Jake said, capturing her gaze. "What matters is how you recover. How your story continues after that moment of embarrassment." He couldn't shake the reminders of his own failures, where he sought to achieve something monumental only to find himself in the trenches of grief and regret. "It's all about the comeback, Emma. Embrace it. Your authenticity will resonate far more than perfection ever could." With renewed vigor, Emma began speaking animatedly about her work. She shared fragments of her narratives, how each piece encapsulated a moment in her life, a raw truth she was ready to convey to the world. The darkness that had lingered earlier began to dissipate as her confidence swirled in powerful currents between them, but even amidst the flow of creativity, doubt lingered, a shadow cast from the world outside their crafting bubble. Jake realized this was not just about Emma's talent or her presentation, it was also a journey for him. As he encouraged her to embrace vulnerability, he recognized the same necessity planted within himself. "Let us rehearse tomorrow," he suggested firmly, unfazed by the blossoms of doubt threatening to invade their thoughts. "You'll show them that your heart outweighs any judgment. And remember, presenting this art is just the first step in claiming your place in a world that isn't always kind." In the careful threading of Emma's narratives, Jake saw the spark of transformation igniting her spirit. Yet behind the excitement was a flooding realization: what if embracing that journey meant facing his own uncertainties as well? What if the truth, once unleashed, also uncovered parts of him he had yet to confront? As they prepared to leave the park, a realization settled on Jake's shoulders, a rising tide of urgency, as a new challenge loomed before them. They were on the cusp of something profound, but alongside that was the resonant question: would they withstand the inevitable backlash that came with bold expressions, or would it unravel everything they built? A new message popped up on Jake's phone, this time from a number he didn't recognize. He hesitated for a moment, the weight of it pressing on his decision to open the text or leave it be. They had built momentum, but how much stronger would they have to be in the face of the unknown? And perhaps more daunting, what if this message put their entire plan at risk? The moment Jake opened the message, a cold chill shot down his spine. The words on the screen pulled him into a whirlpool of anxiety. It was a familiar name, someone from his past he had hoped would remain buried. A mixture of dread and curiosity gripped him, but he couldn't afford to spiral. Not now. He glanced at Emma, who was now out of her artistic reverie, the excitement replaced with concern. "Dad? What's wrong?" He forced a casual smile, pocketing the phone. "Nothing we can't handle. I just thought of something we could work on together." The thought of the looming message remained in the back of his mind like a ticking time bomb. "Really? Like what?" she asked, her eyes lighting up slightly. "Let us break down how you'll engage with your audience," Jake suggested, forcing his mind to shift gears. He needed to focus, not just for Emma, but for himself. Every moment of distraction could send both of them into a spiral of doubt that was better left unvisited. He pulled out a notebook from his bag and began sketching out an outline. Think about your first impression. What do you want them to remember about you? Emma bit her lip, contemplating. I want them to know my story, but also that my art is part of me, like my voice. Exactly, Jake affirmed. He began jotting down points, feeling his initial apprehension ebbing slightly as they delved deeper into her narrative. Unknowingly, he was guiding himself through a therapeutic process as much as he was mentoring Emma. Let us practice how you'll share your personal journey, he said. It's not just about the artwork, it's about what inspired you to create it. As they rehearsed, Jake found himself admiring Emma's courage. Each word was laced with the authenticity he had just implored her to embrace. Yet doubt flickered in her eyes. What if they don't get it, or worse, what if they mock me for being vulnerable? Jake paused, recognizing the same fears whispering within him. You know those moments we talked about, the stumbles? They're actually powerful. Vulnerability connects with people. It makes you relatable. I understand that, she replied softly, but what if my art isn't enough? Your art is more than enough. You need to believe in it because your emotions, your experiences, they're what make your work stand out. This is your voice, Emma. Own it. As they continued to perfect her approach, Jake felt the knot in his stomach tighten again. The message loomed over him like storm clouds on the horizon, uncharted territory where he might have to confront the very doubts he sought to dispel in Emma. He glanced back at the phone, away from Emma's wide, hopeful eyes. After they finished their work session, a heavy silence hung between them. She looked rejuvenated, a bright ember of determination alight in her demeanor. That ember, however, ignited a furnace of fear inside Jake, the fear of exposure, of failure, of being unworthy of the support she so generously offered. As they wrapped up for the night, Jake couldn't shake the tightness settling in his chest. The walls he had built around himself slowly crumbled with every bit of encouragement he imparted to Emma. Would this message further his momentum, or derail the fragile path they were carving toward authenticity? Before bedtime, he found himself alone for a moment, staring at the phone again. With a steadying breath, he finally clicked on the message and opened it. A chill raked down his spine as the words hit him like a hammer. I know about what happened. We need to talk. What had been unearthed? Would the past evolve into an obstacle, or could it be an unexpected avenue for growth? He clenched the phone tightly, knowing tomorrow would demand more strength than he had anticipated. Emma's journey had begun to merge with his own, one that could potentially lead to both their revelations and redefining everything they thought they knew. And in that tightening moment, one question resonated painfully clear: was he ready to face the truths that lay in wait just beyond the envelope of yesterday? The morning light filtered through the curtains, illuminating the space that had become both a sanctuary and a battleground for Jake. As he watched Emma absorb her newfound resolve, he felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down. Would he be able to stand firm against the specter of his past while guiding her into a future embraced by confidence? He had always assumed he was the protector, the one with all the answers. But today, as the message loomed in the back of his mind, he realized his own fears felt like chains wrapped tightly around him. With Emma's awakening to her artistic voice, it became increasingly hard to ignore what he had long tried to forget. Dad, are you ready for today? Emma's voice sliced through his thoughts, a blend of eagerness and nervousness lingering. Her natural enthusiasm made him smile, yet he felt a sting of guilt. He was her mentor, but was he entangling her in his unresolved issues? Of course, he replied, his tone more confident than he felt. They were supposed to meet with a small group of local artists where Emma would showcase a piece of her work. It was a platform she had long dreamed of, and yet it filled Jake with a bubbling mix of pride and trepidation. The stakes felt higher as his own vulnerabilities threatened to disrupt her momentum. As they prepared to leave, Jake's gaze drifted back to the phone. The message had carved a path through his consciousness, making it impossible to push aside. He grabbed a notebook and scribbled a few thoughts. Maybe if he organized his fears, faced them head-on, he could pave the way for both of them to flourish. What if he engaged with the past instead of running from it? The thought pulsed through him, igniting a flicker of determination. If vulnerability was powerful enough for Emma, why couldn't it be for him? In the car, the silence stretched, and Emma munched on her toast, lost in her thoughts. "You okay, Dad?" she asked, perceptively noticing his tension. "Just thinking about the day ahead," he replied, grasping for a semblance of normalcy. "About my art or other things?" Her candidness caused a crack in his facade, and he realized she sensed his conflict. "Both. I guess I'm wondering how much I can share about my own journey without overshadowing yours," he confessed. Her direct gaze held a surprising strength. "Dad, being real is what will make your stories matter," she urged. "If your past adds to our conversations, share it." Her wisdom hit him like a gust of wind. Perhaps this journey required an intertwining of narratives. If he showcased his own vulnerabilities, it might not only free him but strengthen the bond they were forging together. As they arrived, the small studio was buzzing with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Emma's eyes shone with possibility as they stepped inside, but Jake felt the whisper of fear shadowing him. He could sense the stares of strangers, their judgments lurking like ghosts from his past. That he watched as Emma approached a group gathered around her piece. She spoke openly, her words flowing with passion and courage. The crowd leaned in, captivated by her authenticity. Each moment that went by brought the tightness in Jake's chest to an almost unbearable degree. As she flourished, he felt a surge of pride, laced with bitter uncertainty, the juxtaposition of her confidence casting a stark light on his inadequacies. That he wanted to retreat but remembered Emma's advice. He inhaled sharply and turned to face the gathering crowd. With Emma speaking, perhaps now was the time to dig into the soil of his own past. No, he couldn't just stand back, he needed to step forward, to confront his shadows while she claimed her voice. But would he find the strength within him, the courage to face the chapter he had long avoided? With every moment that ticked by, doubt lingered. As he watched Emma share, a blend of determination began to swell within him. The past may represent a dark chapter, but for once, he was willing to let it coalesce with the present. The urgency of his own story beckoned. Just then, Maria, an old acquaintance from his past, entered the studio. Their eyes met, and everything inside him froze. This was the very person he had tried to avoid for years. The moment of confrontation had arrived. What would she reveal, and how would it affect everything he hoped to build with Emma? Jake's heart raced as he locked eyes with Maria, the specter of his past manifesting into this moment of potential upheaval. She had departed his life like a ghost, leaving behind unresolved emotions and fractured memories. He glanced back at Emma, who was animatedly discussing her art with little regard for the surrounding crowd, oblivious to the collision of histories taking place a few feet away. A swirl of conflicting thoughts crashed over him: resentment, culpability, and a peculiar yearning for closure all clamored for his attention. The walls of the studio grew tighter as he recalled the last time he had seen Maria, the tension that had splintered their relationship. Would she bring up the history he'd spent the last several years suppressing? Jake. Maria's voice cut through the chaos, sharp yet laced with warmth. The way she said his name stirred a well of emotions he had buried for too long. "Maria," he replied, surprised at the steadiness of his own voice. There was no escaping her now, it was a reckoning he couldn't refuse. "It's been a while," she began, her eyes searching his face, perhaps seeking the remnants of their shared past. "I saw your daughter's work online. I didn't know she was your wow, she's talented." Her compliment felt like a small reprieve, a thread of normalcy as he fought against the urge to retreat deeper into himself. Jake nodded, basking for a moment in her acknowledgement of Emma's talent, but it also magnified his own inadequacies. "And I saw your message," Maria continued, a glint of something unnameable flashing in her gaze. "About facing the past. Do you really think you can?" The directness of her inquiry shook him. It laid bare the internal battle brewing within, How could he, a man so entangled in his fears, truly confront what he had evaded for years? Maybe I don't have a choice anymore, he admitted, the vulnerability slipping out, as unexpected as it was liberating. He could almost hear Emma's voice encouraging him to be authentic, to confront his truth. I used to be afraid of you, Maria said, her voice softer now, as if navigating through delicate memories. You always seemed so certain, like you had it all figured out. Jake let out a self-deprecating chuckle, the kind that tasted bitter. Certainty has never been my strong suit, he confessed, feeling the walls of his carefully constructed solitude shift. I built a facade. Inside, I've been lost. A silence engulfed them, a shared acknowledgement of unprocessed experiences swirling between them. In that moment, he realized something profound, a connection still lingered. Your daughter needs you to be real, Maria said, eyes narrowing with a fierce confidence. Just like the rest of us do. He felt the weight of her words and the stakes of the moment rise. Was he truly prepared to lay bare the truth of his past? Jake could feel the gnawing doubt competing with a blossoming courage within him. Refocusing on Emma, he watched her speaking passionately, each word empowering not just her audience but also himself. He had to confront the shadows that lurked behind him. This was no longer just about him. It was about Emma, and showing her what a genuine path to healing looked like, even when it faced grim realities. Today isn't just about her art, Jake said decisively, his voice gathering resilience. It's about all of us finding our voices. As if sensing the shift in the atmosphere, Emma glanced over at him. There was a question in her eyes, a request for him to step fully into the light alongside her. With a steadying breath, Jake turned back to Maria, a resolution gathering within him. Maybe it's time I face what I've been avoiding. Maybe letting go of the past is the only way to truly embrace the future. Yet, even as he voiced this newfound commitment, lurking doubts remonstrated within. Would he really have the strength to uphold his promise? Before he could contemplate further, a loud crash erupted from the rear of the studio, a cascade of paint tubes spilling onto the floor. The moment served as a reminder that chaos was as unpredictable as the past he had fled from. With adrenaline surging, he turned toward the commotion, his heart pounding. The unexpected chaos heralded his next confrontation and challenged Jake in ways he couldn't anticipate. What would this moment reveal, and how would it deepen his exploration of resilience with Emma by his side? As Jake steadied himself for the sudden chaos in the studio, a wave of determination surged through him. The scattered paint tubes, once a source of dread, now symbolized the unpredictability of their journey. Emma was not merely an observer, she had become his partner in this unfolding transformation. That he scanned the room, his heart racing not just from the sudden disruption but from understanding the timeless lesson before him. Creating art combined both the joy and turbulence of expression. Just like Emma's journey, each moment whether calm or chaotic held potential for validation and growth. The sensation of camaraderie with his daughter revitalized Jake. She had stood bravely in front of the crowd moments ago, yet now she was visibly unsettled, the sight of the paint tubes scattered haphazardly reflecting her fears. He walked towards her, resolve firm. Emma, let us channel this chaos. He encouraged. Just as you would with your brush. It's all part of the process. Emma froze momentarily, then her gaze brightened. Beneath her initial shock lay the ember of creativity. He watched as she slowly approached the mess, her instinct to reclaim the vivid colors overriding the apprehension that had threatened to engulf her moments before. Dropping to her knees, she began gathering the tubes, a smile appearing as she recognized the playful spontaneity of the situation. Jake felt a spark of pride. This was not just about competition, this was a moment of reclaiming joy amid uncertainty. He knelt beside her, picking up tubes of paint and stacking them in a makeshift rainbow. What if we turned this into an impromptu collaboration? He smiled. All of these colors. They could symbolize every emotion you've poured into your art. Emma giggled as she began to arrange the tubes, vibrant hues mixed together, reminding them both of the complexity of their emotional landscapes. In that interaction, Jake discovered that it was within the chaos they found clarity, not only in the art they created but also in the understanding of who they both were outside the labels that once confined them. Once the studio had settled, Emma stood, transformed. She approached her audience, her voice steady and confident, and began to share the story behind her art, how it reflected layers of resilience, joy, and even chaos. As she spoke, Jake felt a sense of liberation washing over him. He realized he was no longer defined by past fears, rather, he was an advocate for their newfound truths shared through creativity. In that moment, Jake made the decision to speak, to share his story openly alongside Emma's. As he took a step toward the front, he felt a release of the burdens he had held for too long. His past no longer held power over him. The uncertainty he had grappled with transformed into assurance. He too had a narrative intertwined with hers, a testament to overcoming adversity. I used to believe that my own scars would overshadow Emma's journey, he began, locking eyes with his daughter, who encouraged him silently. But the truth is, our experiences make us who we are. Just like the colors represent not just one single hue, but a spectrum of emotion, our stories weave together to create the art of our lives. His voice grew stronger as he spoke, infused with the confidence he felt as a father. We each have the chance to confront what once held us back. Emma has taught me that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's a means to transformation. With each word, he felt a weight lift, the air shifting around them as the audience engaged with a warmth that washed over the room. The spectators' faces softened, nods of understanding rippling through the crowd as emotional catharsis spilled into the space they occupied. As their presentation concluded, applause erupted louder than he could have imagined. The vibrant expressions of their journey brought recognition, not only for Emma's art but for both of their stories intertwined. This moment built a foundation of courage where there had once been doubt. Emma and Jake shared a gleaming smile, a mutual understanding of their transformation into advocates for their truths. They had demonstrated that their identities were not defined by labels or biases but could be embraced openly. Jake felt a solid confidence settle within him from the overwhelming acknowledgement received from the audience. The validation he had silently yearned for was now a tangible reality. He no longer questioned whether he was enough, he had proven it to himself and others. Walking home together that evening, Jake held Emma's hand tightly. Their bond had evolved. He was no longer simply her protector but an equal partner navigating the complexities of life. He had transformed from carrying the weight of doubt to establishing an empowered presence alongside his daughter. If the prior chapter had been one of turmoil, this was an affirming climax, action taken and love poured into every brushstroke. As they entered their home filled with laughter and light, Jake understood deeply what it meant to face the past and embrace the future. He was not just Jake, the father of a girl in a wheelchair, but Jake, proud advocate of Emma's artistry and a storyteller of his own. He placed the framed artwork Emma had created in pride of place on their wall. It would always remind them that overcoming darkness led to a brilliant conception of light, artfully crafted through the unpredictability of life. He felt a swell of pride. The achievement was not merely a moment's victory, it was a life-altering realization that profound transformation was possible through courage, authenticity, and love. Now, it was time to share their story with the world, time to empower other artists entangled in their own shadows. Today marked the beginning of something great, not just for Emma, but also for Jake. With this sense of accomplishment, he uttered a silent promise to himself: he would continue to embrace his journey of growth, book by book, shade by shade, alongside his daughter towards boundless horizons. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about this incredible ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share.